Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Alexie and John, of course.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
We just want to say real quick that we know that God of Love was not accessible to everyone, and sorry about that. And in the future, we're going to definitely make sure that every short we use is available on YouTube or Vimeo. And yeah, John's going to make sure that this class is helpful whether you got to see it or not.
So. Yes. Yeah. And
oh, John, show them the mic that we got with the coffee donation.
It makes me look very professional. If you didn't know it was me, you'd think, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Look at that. Look at that. Huh?
That's the mic. That's the mic you all got, John.
It's the mic. Thank you for your coffee donations. Bought me my new mic. Like Christmas here. So excited. Do I sound more like authority? Do I have a little more authority or no?
You do.
Do I?
Yeah, you could do voiceovers.
I wonder if I could walk around town with this, like, when I do anybody. Yeah, that's what I need. Some more authority.
All right.
So God of Love. I'm going to talk a little bit about God of Love. And we apologize that it wasn't accessible to all of you because it's a remarkable film. But I'm going to take you through it. And hopefully some point down the road, we can find a way for you all to see the film. Let me just do one thing here. So
they like your mic, John, by the way. Sorry.
Just what?
So they like your mic. It sounds
They
good.
like my mic. Okay. then we're done for the day because that's really all I wanted. Thank you all. See you next week. No. God of Love is a quirky comedy. Luke Matheny wrote it, directed it, stars in it, won an Oscar for it. Not bad at all. And it's about this guy named Raymond, and Raymond is in a band. He sings in a band in a nightclub, and he also simultaneously, while he sings, he throws darts. And he's not like a good dart thrower. He's an amazing dart thrower. He throws darts and hits the bullseye when he's blindfolded while he's singing. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's wonderful. And Luke says right up front at the beginning of the film, he says that he's in love with Kelly, who's one of the members of the band. And he states immediately thereafter that unfortunately, Kelly, which, by the way, in case you hadn't figured this out already, Kelly is his objective. This is a boy wants girl movie. So Kelly, who he's in love with, and he wants to win her affections, but as we know, there must be conflict. So what's the conflict? Kelly is not in love with Raymond. Instead, she is in love with Fozzie, Raymond's best friend. So you can see already there are complications. Raymond wants Kelly. Kelly doesn't want Raymond. Kelly wants Fozzie. Fozzie's Raymond's best friend. That, by the way, all of that information, keep in mind, it's a short film. It's about 17 minutes long. All of that information we get in the first, I'm looking at my notes here. All of that information we get in the first 3 minutes of the film. That's impressive. That's a lot. We learn who the protagonist is. We learn what the objective is. We learn who the antagonist is. That would be Fozzie. Fozzie in this case is not only the antagonist because he's what's keeping Raymond from getting girl. He also is the mentor because he's the best friend. It's magnificent storytelling. And then at a break between sets, remember they're all in a band, Raymond's singing, and at a break he goes over to the bar to get a drink in the bars, and the bartender says, "Oh, this just came for you. It sort of just appeared." And it's a little box, and he opens it, and it's more darts, and it's darts with instructions. And the instructions say something to the effect of, if you throw this dart at someone and hit them, they will, for the next period of time, I think it's several hours, they will fall in love with you. They will be madly in love with you. They won't know anything that's happened before. They will be magically and overwhelmingly in love with you. But there's a time boundary to it. So it will run out. When the potion from the dart wears out, they'll no longer be enamored with you. And by that time, you have to have won their affection genuinely or not. That's, again, all of that takes place in about 4 or 5 minutes, about 4 or 5 pages. It's an incredible amount of story information. It's really tight. It's great storytelling. The second act begins. By the way, the getting the darts, when Raymond receives the darts from the bartender, when we don't know where they came from. Bartender said, they just somehow appeared. That's the inciting incident. The inciting incident, once again, is something that happens to the protagonist that turns their world upside down. His world will never be the same. So he tries them out. He tries the darts out on another guy in the band, and sure enough, they work. I gotta open the window. They work. The girl that he strikes with the dart falls in love with the other band member. Now they're in love. So Raymond's got it. Now he's gonna go over to Kelly's, and he says to Fozzie, his best friend, I want you to set up my apartment so it's a romantic setting, because I'm going to bring her back here for dinner, and you guys will play in the background, and it'll be fantastic. And then I'm going to take her to the opera, and I'm going to take her to the ballet, because I've got this definitive amount of time, and she's going to fall in love with me. So I hope you're following me. Raymond goes over to see Kelly and says, "Hey, Kelly, can you do me a favor? Can you open your hand, hold your hands out, and close your eyes?" She does, and he stabs her. He stabs her with a dart. And when she opens her eyes, she's magically in love with him. And he has the next, again, several hours to get her to fall in love. He takes her ice skating. He reads her a poem. He does a lot of stupid stuff. She's wild for him. They have dinner. And I think that's when they go to the ballet. And the clock is ticking down. So we've got a ticking clock. He's urgency. She's got to be in love. It's about to run out of time. He kisses her. Raymond kisses Kelly. And when she opens her eyes, she's in shock. She doesn't know what she's doing here. She's not in love with him. He's lost her. He's defeated. There's a montage where he goes around New York City hitting other girls with darts. They fall in love with him, but it's not the same. It's not Kelly. And then the late second act, and I would argue that this, in a way, is his ultimate test. And this beat I'm going to tell you about happens about page 13. So it's, again, a lot of story in a short period of time. They're back at the bar. They're playing. He's singing. And he looks over at Fozzie, and he sees Fozzie smile at Kelly. And Kelly smiles back. And Raymond realizes that, oh my God, Fozzie has ignored his affections for Kelly out of respect for me, out of respect for our friendship. The set's over. They leave the bar. They're walking down the street, the three of them, Kelly, Raymond, and Fozzie. And Raymond drops back a little bit, and we're in a tight one on him. And he realizes that it's all been about him. He hasn't seen the bigger picture. So what's he do? He throws a dart at Fozzie, and Fozzie turns to Kelly, and they're in love, as it should be. In that moment, Raymond has corrected his flaw. He's realized that the love that these two have for each other is more important than his selfishness, than his obsession with Kelly, that they actually truly love each other. And he realizes that he must be selfless. And then the end of the movie is he wakes up the next morning and his doorbell rings. He goes and opens the door and there's no one there. And he looks down and there's a big box, long box. And he opens opens it, and there are these big arrows and a bow. And it's got directions, which are identical to the dart directions, which is if you strike somebody with this arrow, you're like Cupid, and they will fall in love, and it will be true love. And then the last scene of the film is he's got the arrows in a quiver behind his back, and he's on a scooter driving down the road. And he said, he says something to the effect, you can't make people love you. You can't choose who you love or when you fall in love, but I can, because I'm the God of love. And he zooms on down the road, and it's wonderfully satisfying, evocative film done in 17 minutes. It's much better than the story that I just, Luke Matheny does it much better than the way I've done it, pitching it to you, but I hope you get some idea. The reason I want to talk about it today is that, as we talked about the last couple of weeks, short films, not all short films have all of the elements of story. God of Love does. And when you do it that well, I mean, he won an Oscar, he got an agent, he got a manager, his career took off. But it is the God of Love is the rare short film that has all of it incorporates all of the elements of story, and it's just fantastic. So again, I apologize to you that you didn't get to see the film. I hope I've explained it somewhat adequately. And if you have questions about it, whether you've seen it or not, I'm eager to answer questions. And then, by the way, we can get into, as we always do, other points of story and the movie business and whatever else you've got to ask me. So Alexie, can we open it up? And
yeah, let's do it. So there was one question we got a bit ago that I thought was a really good question. Is Fozzie a false mentor? He helps plan the date, but he understands Kelly better than the protagonist does and ends up with her, although that might not have been his intention at first.
That's a great question. So, hi. Let's see. Is Fozzie a false mentor? It's a great question. He would be a false mentor if he turned on the protagonist. In other words, if he used the information that he's gained from the protagonist to undermine or sabotage the protagonist. So the false mentor is a wonderful a way to cause conflict, because you're saying, the protagonist is saying, I trust you, I'm telling you everything because I know you'll keep it in a strictest confidence, and I know that you will, you're on my side. And the false mentor, usually late in the second act, then uses that information to sabotage the protagonist. Arguably, could he be called a false mentor? Arguably the greatest, I would say, the greatest false mentor in theater and film, I guess, because they made films, is Iago. Iago is, there's no question. Iago in Othello, he does nothing but get information from Othello to sabotage and ruin Othello's life. Iago is a great, if you haven't seen, and you can find the film, it's been done several times. Othello, Iago is a great false mentor.
So let's see. We have some questions.
Alexie, you have to interrupt me. If I'm rambling on, I don't make sense. You can say that didn't make sense.
No, it made total sense. I think it answered the question.
She might just be saying that.
Yeah, I'm lying. No, let's see. We have some questions about who is the antagonist in this film. Does the antagonist have to be a person?
Nicole, hi, Nicole. Yeah, who's the antagonist? And does the antagonist have to be a person? Okay, who's the antagonist? It's good. I would debate that Fozzie is the antagonist. This is a rare situation where the antagonist and the mentor are the same person. Can you guys hear that traffic? Is that too loud?
I think it's okay. I mean, it is.
Okay.
We can hear it, but
Okay.
I don't think you can do much.
We're in New York City. What can I do? Because see, Fozzie is why Kelly won't fall for Raymond. She loves Fozzie. So if here's the bad version, if Fozzie and at the end of the first act has a heart attack and dies, then there is no antagonist, and Raymond has a better shot at getting Kelly. I don't know how I came up with that, but and by the way, this is one of the really fun things about storytelling and understanding structure, is that you can do these things. It's really rare to have your mentor also be your antagonist. But if you know what you're doing, you might be able to pull it off. And I think Luke Matheny does in this film. Does the antagonist have to be a person? Your second question. I mean, it could be a dragon. Could be Jaws.
So we're getting a lot of. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So but generally speaking, it has to be a person. And remember, the antagonist job, in a very definitive way, the antagonist job is to keep the protagonist from reaching the objective.
Someone here. This is something interesting, and I have a question sort of building on it. Emily said, "I debate that Kelly is the antagonist."
She's the objective and that. Yeah, I like that, Emily.
And then, sort of going on that.
Yeah, that's kind of good. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe. I mean, by the way, hopefully, Emily, all of you, at some point you're going to be in a writer's room, and I'm trying to prepare you for that day you get in a writer's room, because if you know your stuff and these two, and Kelly comes in and goes, well, I think maybe Kelly's the antagonist. Believe me, everybody in a writer's room is going to respect that question, because it's a really interesting take. Yes, perhaps.
So sort of building on that, is a false mentor an antagonist? Sort of, could you explain what the difference is between a false mentor and an antagonist? And I think you said, yeah, go ahead.
I think I can. Yes, I can. The false mentor is a liar and is laying in wait. And the false mentor, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but the false mentor gives the illusion to the protagonist to be on his or her side. Now, you could also have in that story an antagonist who's right up front and who's saying, I'm not going to let you have what you want. I'm standing in your way. Traditionally, the way this works is the false mentor is working with the antagonist, and he or she has gone kind of undercover. So throughout the first act, when the false mentor is introduced, and throughout most of the second act, the false mentor is given the illusion, and again, lying, to say, I'm on your side. And they're frequently in cahoots with these are good questions, with the antagonist. Yeah.
So sort of building on that, here's a sort of a question. An antagonist is not necessarily evil, but just putting obstacles in front of the protagonist. Is that sort of a difference between, I guess, because Russell and Up.
Yeah, Russell is that's a good, yeah, thank you, Alexie. I think you just saved me. Because, Alexie, who's that cute little boy in Up, is not evil. He's not evil. But he just creates problems. He picks up a dog, he picks up a bird, he has to stop, he has to pee, he has to, all kinds of stuff. But he's not evil. But he is creating obstacles all the way. Yes. Cameron, I think he looks like an actor.
Probably is. Are you, Cameron? I think Raymond and his flaw is his own antagonist. We've got a couple people guessing that.
Yeah, you guys are good. That's a legitimate question or observation. That's a legitimate question. Does Raymond, I would ask, does Raymond keep himself from getting Kelly? Does he stand between what he wants? I think I mentioned this last week. Forgive me if I did. It's just one of the best examples of it. And it's a good film. In Flight, Denzel Washington is certainly his own antagonist. Raymond, yeah, that's a good, again, I'm going to throw you guys into the writer's room because these are smart questions to have. And they're the way you should be deconstructing and analyzing story.
Here's something that builds on that. It's like, so then you could argue that flaws are like always antagonists. So if the flaw is always stopping the protagonist from getting their objective, then would it always make the protagonist their own antagonist?
Yeah. So wait, if I understand this correctly, Claudia, the flaw is the thing that you've given the protagonist in the first act that he or she overcomes. So the flaw is tied to the resolution. It's not necessarily the antagonist. The flaw is internal. The flaw is internal to the protagonist. In the first act, 90% of the time, he or she doesn't know what their flaw is. But by the time they've made this journey and reached the third act, they go, oh, what I thought I wanted is not what I want. Now, that's a perfect example here with Raymond. What he thought he wanted was Kelly. But what he really wanted, or what he was really searching for, is to find out who he is. Who am I? And that's why it ends with, I'm the God of love. He's accepted himself. By the way, it completely mirrors one of my favorite ending scenes of all time, which is Alexie, stop me if I've mentioned this before, which is Spider-Man. Spider-Man, he wants Mary Jane. He's chasing Mary Jane, and he's in denial. He's hiding who he is. And then we're at the cemetery and the burial and the funeral, and the cemetery, and Mary Jane comes up to him and she kisses him. And she says, I love you, Peter Parker. He's been chasing her the whole damn movie. And he says, you'll always be a friend, and I'll always be there for you. And she says, just a friend? And he says, yes. And she turns and walks away, and he says something to the effect, I'm ruining this, but he says, I can't be with her because I'm Spider-Man. And so he's accepted who he is, and that is his destiny. And in this way, I think it worked. But anyway, in this way, God of love, Raymond accepts his destiny. He accepts himself for who he is. Spider-Man cannot have Mary Jane because he's got bigger things to do. He's got to go out and be Spider-Man. Is anybody? I wish I knew if people were laughing or they're just going, "Oh my God, what's he talking about?" So
I love Spider-Man.
I love. If you go back and watch the first Spider-Man, I mean, it is dead on. It is, every story beat is there. It's magnificent storytelling.
Is that Toby? Toby Spider-Man?
Toby, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So in the case of God of Love, overcoming the flaw gives the protagonist a new objective. Which I guess would be like...
Wait, so in the case of overcoming the flaw, it gives the protagonist a new objective.
I think it's like within the context of God of Love, when the movie ends... he now is going to be the God of love instead. Yeah,
and what's satisfying is that we know that this person is now going to be fulfilled. That now they're aware of their journey. They're more aware of who they are, and again, they're more aware of their true destiny. They found. Forgive this. I know it's corny and cliched. They found, I hate this, I'm going to say it anyway. They found their bliss. So Raymond has found his bliss. He didn't get girl, but he's got a quiver full of arrows, and he's gone off to help people find love, and that's his true reason for being. Spider-Man.
Let's see.
I hope that answered that.
I think it did. I think that really covered it. Let's see. Let's try this one. Can a protagonist be more a vehicle to see the conflict within the supporting characters rather than having the central conflict herself?
Ah, Barrette. Okay. Barrette's got a funny picture. He's got the back of his head in a baseball cap. Never seen that before. Can the protagonist be more a vehicle? Barrette, so no, you don't want to go there, because the audience needs to follow and care about one character, one person. I've talked a little bit in past weeks, and I'll talk about more later about ensemble cast. But even in an ensemble, they're generally, there's one there's one character we're following, and because we want to commit to that, we want to see how he or she will do. We want to see their journey and what lengths they will go to reach their objective. So there's a scarecrow and the lion and the Tin Man, but it's Dorothy's movie. It's probably been done, and with all of these things that I talk about, rules get broken all the time. But you're creating a lot of danger, not danger, but you're making it very difficult for yourself as a writer if you don't have a single protagonist with a single objective. Nicole's back.
Yep. Oh, I didn't mean to. Sorry if I'm picking people twice. Can you briefly go through all the elements of story and how the God of Love contains them? So I guess just like if you could do like the main beats.
Yeah. So Nicole, we meet Luke, protagonist. Luke states what he wants. I want Kelly. Luke goes to bar. He gets arrows from out of nowhere with these, darts with these rules. Inciting incident. That's the end of the first act. Throughout the second act, he's in pursuit. He reaches the moment of, and you know what? Now I'm thinking about it, the ultimate test is when he kisses her. He kisses her, and time has run out. So now she will love him or not, and it's not. It's not. He's failed the ultimate test, and he doesn't get his objective. So now what we need to know is, after the ultimate test, does he have resolution? Has he corrected his flaw? Is he now no longer selfish but selfless? He throws the dart, gets Kelly to fall in love with Fozzie, and they go on happily ever after, and he's happy for them. He's a better man at the end of the movie than he was at the beginning. So those are the beats, and they happen. I hope it's Nicole. Yeah. Or Nicole. Was that Nicole? I hope that answered it.
Yeah, it was Nicole. Let's see. So building on Brett's question, what if the conflicts from supporting characters affect the protagonist's arc? So if it's like
yeah.
Okay. You got it?
What if the conflicts of the supporting characters affect the protagonist?
So like if you had an ensemble, but I guess it helped move the
what you want. Yes. I mean, what you want, all of those supporting characters are creating obstacles. You generally want one protagonist who is the puppeteer, who's in control of all these other characters. But and I go back to it. I need to go back and watch it actually because I'm mentioning it a lot in here. Little Miss Sunshine. All of those characters on the van are very definitive, very unique characters, all eccentric characters. And they all create obstacles. They all create obstacles. And the best one, of course, is I think the best one is Alan Arkin, because what does he do to create obstacles? He dies. He leaves them with a body to get rid of. That's an obstacle. That's a real obstacle.
Let's see.
Yeah.
All right. The flaw gives the protagonist a new objective. You're a bank robber. After you get the cash escape, might be the next objective. So I think that this is about like when your character has an objective, it's usually tied to their flaw. So then when they resolve their flaw, they now want to meet their inner need. And in a way, that inner need is a new objective, I think, is where this is going.
Wait, okay, let me read it. The flaw gives the protagonist a new objective. The bank robber, after you get the cash escape, might be the next objective.
So after you get the cash, now the escape is the objective.
Okay.
I'd argue that the objective would be, the whole time would be to get the cash outside.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a new objective. It's just a step in the objective.
For the ending of the script, it is better to leave the protagonist with the objective. Oh, okay. I think there are a couple questions in here. Sorry, Roland, and get back to us if I'm not answering this. Alexie, can you put that back up just because I need to?
Oh, yeah, let me.
Is that possible?
Oh, yeah. I will find. Here we are. I was trying not to cover your face.
That, please do. Everybody appreciate that. Actually, could you put it up here? And so they'll think I have hair. No. The flaw gives. Okay, so the flaw, remember that the flaw is resolved in the third act. And the movie, once the flaw is resolved, the movie's over. The third act in a feature film can be as short as 10 pages. Once we know that he or she has corrected their flaw, we're done. That's all we cared about. Now, then you say you're a bank robber. After you get the cash, escape might be the next objective. No. So here's the thing. You would need to decide get the cash and get away. Getting out of town would be the objective. So getting into the bank, getting the money, and get the money out of the bank would be the objective. For the end of the script, is it better to leave the protagonist with the objective? So by the end of the script, the protagonist either has the objective or they don't, because that's the fight. Luke doesn't get the objective, and in the third act, he does not have the objective. So you don't want that left unresolved, because that's unsatisfying to the audience. If you finish a girl wants boy story and girl wants boy, and at the end of the film you say she still wants boy, and we don't know if she's going to get him or not, it's not satisfying to the audience. So we need resolution there.
So here's a cool question, Javier. Is the flaw always related to a psychological issue?
The flaw is generally, yes, psychological. The flaw,
I guess, internal is a way to look at it.
Yes, internal, psychological, yes. So the flaw is, yes. The answer is yes.
The follow-up to that, sorry, to cut you, is can it be a physical flaw? I can't really think of an example. But does it have to be internal?
It has to be character related. So when you say psychological, yes, it has to be related to your character. Perhaps the best way to think of this is that the protagonist in the first act is not a person fully developed. Tom Wolfe has a great book called Man in Full, and it's that journey. It's the character becomes a man in full, or a woman in full. So the flaw is frequently mirrors the fact, excuse me, that the protagonist is not fully realized as a human being. And by the third act, when they've corrected the flaw, now they're a complete human being.
So here are some people are, I'm not going to put a specific one up because there's just a few different examples of people suggesting things that might be physical flaws.
Great.
Quasimodo and the Hunchback of, I never know how to say this word, so I'm not going to.
Quasimodo.
No, the next of where he's.
Notre Dame.
Okay. I said it wrong one time and I've been scarred.
So would you say that's your flaw?
Yeah, that I can't say that word.
You can't sound that. I hope you get over it. I hope you resolve it.
I don't think I ever will. And then,
yeah.
And then like addiction is sort of a crossover. I guess.
Addiction is a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
Addiction certainly is a flaw. I mean, that, by the way, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. It's psychological and it's physical.
I think
Yeah.
I think that something to point out is that there's things that can make the protagonist's journey more difficult, like, Quasimodo having a physical disability that makes his journey more difficult, but that's not the thing that he's resolving.
No.
Like that's not the point of his journey. It's just another like obstacle. It's
an obstacle. It's like Richard III. His deformity, they impact everything he does. So they create obstacles because Richard III, Quasimodo, these people, because of physical aspects, they can't get what they want. But they're and Hunchback of Notre Dame I haven't seen in 100 years. I have to go back and watch it. I don't know. I'm not sure, but yes, I mean, in terms of addiction, that's not wonderful. It's a terrible physical as well as psychological disability. Oh, the King, J. Williams, Whittington, Barrette. The King's Speech is fantastic. What a good movie that is. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yes, it's his Okay, Jay. His psychological flaw manifests itself in his stuttering, right? So once they can correct his lack of confidence, but those two are paired together. His uncertainty, his flaw, his lack of confidence, and the way it exhibits itself is a physical manifestation. It's real. That's a great point. And by the way, it's a great movie. Really well done.
Oh man, let's see.
Do people? By the way, if I don't answer a question, can Jay come back and go, "I don't understand what you're talking about"? Or
they will. I think that you've been getting it. I think you've been getting it though.
Okay.
Let's see. Man, sometimes there's just so many good ones. I'm trying to figure out where to
pick the easy ones.
The easy ones.
Yeah, easy. No, I'm kidding.
Let's see. Sorry, it's hard for me to find them sometimes.
That's okay. We can pause for a second.
Well, we're getting a lot of questions about the addiction and how that relates to a flaw, and if the substance can be the antagonist, and just questions about addiction as a flaw.
Addiction is how do I say this correctly? It's a great flaw. It's a terrible flaw. It's not a great flaw. Don't get it. But and that's an example that, this is a little broad, but I'll say it anyway. That's an example that where your protagonist is his or her own antagonist, because they have this addiction issue, and it's up to them to repair it and resolve it, and they can't. Absolutely. I mean, addiction, we've seen that, and you'll see that in stories and novels and films forever, because it's tragic, and the stakes are high, because generally it evolves out to excuse me, a matter of life and death. But addiction is absolutely, it's a terrible reality, and therefore it makes for a great source of conflict. Can
we have clarification on the difference between obstacles and flaws?
Okay. Yes. What we should do going forward at some point, what we should do is suggest movies for everybody to see. That way I can use those movies as a frame of reference.
Like, you mean like, like 5 movies that you reference a lot?
Yeah. And I mean, I know I use Up a lot. I use Wizard of Oz. I use Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that would help. So I can, use his point as references. I use Up because I think everybody's seen it because it's a great film. I use Wizard of Oz, same reason. Raiders of the Lost Ark, same reason. So anyway, back to Ben Johnson. Ben, clarification between the obstacles and the flaw. The flaw is internal. The flaw is Casablanca. The flaw is he's completely without any moral core, which is why in Act 1, Rick says, I stick my neck out for no one. He says it 3 times. The Epstein brothers, Philip and Robert, wrote Casablanca, and they were brilliant, those guys. And so they have Rick say, I stick my neck out for no one 3 times in the first act. That's his flaw. He's completely self-centered and self-involved. That's why in the third act, I know I mentioned this before, forgive me, but that's why in the third act, he says to Ilsa, the love of his life, you must go away, because the problems of 3 people don't amount to a hill of beans. And I'm going back to the fight. So he's corrected his flaw. The obstacles are different. The main obstacle in Casablanca is that the brilliant Epstein brothers gave Ilsa a husband. So the first problem is the woman you're in love with is married. Second issue is when we find out who Victor Laszlo is, who Ilsa is married to, he's like the greatest guy in the world. He's like Gandhi and Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln rolled up in one. So shit, man, you don't have any chance at all. You don't have any chance in the world of winning her back from that super dude. So that's an obstacle. Boy can't get girl because girl's married to Superman. Lane, I hope that helps.
Oh, Lane's a new one.
Oh, Lane's a new one. Sorry. Hi, Lane. Lane Law.
Would it be fair?
What?
Would it be fair to say that all flaws are obstacles, but not all obstacles are flaws?
Yes. You should.
Did you like that?
Can you get that? What is it when they stitch it on a pillow? Be one of those. That should be like, we'll put out pillows, and that would be perfect. Whatever you said. It's so eloquent, I can't even repeat it. Lane Law. Would it be fair to say that all? No, that's the same one.
That's what I just said.
Oh.
I don't think we did it.
Is it fair to say that all flaws are obstacles, but not all obstacles are flaws? Yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. Oh, Lane came up with it. I thought Alexie. I was giving Alexie credit. It's Lane.
Yeah, I took it though.
Lane, thank you. You get all the credit for that one. It's really good, and yes, it's absolutely accurate. Sorry, it's late in the day here.
Oh man, let's see. Here's an interesting one. Is dealing with grief a flaw?
Wow. Okay, so Federico, can he tell us where is he from? I wonder. Anyway, is dealing with grief a flaw? Yes, you could do that. Here's what you would do that. Here's how you might do that. So, if grief paralyzes the protagonist, I'm just making this up, and therefore he or she cannot function, then overcoming their grief, in other words, correcting their flaw, overcoming their grief, would be the bookends of that. And keep in mind that when you establish a flaw, it has to mirror the resolution. So if grief is his flaw, overcoming grief, that's why in God of Love, he's selfish, all he cares about is himself, and his resolution is he's selfless. So the flaw and resolution are mirror images of one another, generally speaking.
Here's a special guest.
Oh my God, it's Avishai. Throw him out of here. Get him out of here.
He's kicked.
Avishai. He's here taunting me. Avishai, how are you? He knows all the answers. He could teach this class. Depending on your character.
Wait, share who he is real quick.
Avishai is fantastic screenwriter. He's a wonderful screenwriter. He was he's here to taunt me. That's his flaw. He's a wonderful writer. And Avi came into my advanced class a couple of years ago. God, how long ago? He's so old now. I don't know how long ago that was. A few years ago.
I think he and I were the same
year. Yeah, you're both so old now, which means I'm getting older too. And Avi loves horror films. It's really weird. I mean, he's just, Avi, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you're slightly obsessed with horror films. But Avi really, I mean, I'm going to speak as if you were not here, was so committed, such a hard worker, genuinely loved story. And I could tell just from after the third class, I thought, man, this guy, he's bitten by the bug. He loves screenwriting. He loves storytelling. And he's gone on to sell scripts and win contests. And there are these horror film festivals, script festivals, and he wins those. And he's well on his way. And he's a terrific guy. And I don't know what he's doing here. He knows all the answers. Hi, Avi.
So a little special guest.
Special guest. We're not. Don't pay him for this guest appearance.
No.
Avi.
Oh man. Let's see. Trying to look for some more questions. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Here's a fun one. Santiago, do you have any advice for screenwriting adaptations rather than writing one from scratch?
Yeah, well, yeah. If you find a great book or a play or a short story or and you're going to do an adaptation, I can talk a little bit about adaptation. First of all, adaptation, what you're looking for is something you're passionate about. You read a book and you go, oh my God, this is a great story in here. And I want to, and then by the way, get the rights. I'll talk about that later. But here's the trick with adaptation. And I'm in my day, back in the day, I've done several of these. I've done quite a few adaptations. So you get the book. You love the book, you read the book, you finish the book, you love it, and it's 450 pages long. So immediately there's an inherent problem. Your script can only be about 115 pages. So what I recommend, and what I've done in the past, is you go through with Post-its. You go through with a Post-it pad, and you reread the book, and you put Post-its in, and you go, okay, now on page 35, they finally identify the objective. post it, put objective. Then you go through and the further you get in the book, there are more obstacles. So you keep posting those. Some you're not going to use, but what you're trying to do is condense the story. You're trying to condense the book. And I have found that, again, let's just hypothetical, is that if in the book they introduce the objective on page 40, then you've got to get rid of almost 30 pages. And what that helps is, and then you go through the book, and those Post-it notes are kind of clothespins. You guys know what clothespins are? They're kind of thumbtacks where you hang the story. And so once you break it, once you say, okay, I have these elements of story, and they don't happen as concisely as they have to in the screenplay, because the novel can be as long as the novelist wants it to be. Then once you find that, you can frame the story, knowing what pieces of the novel you must take out.
So here's a question. Sarah, can time be an obstacle?
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
So ticking clock.
Yeah. So Sarah, great. Ticking clock. Absolutely. I mean, every James Bond film you'll ever see, I think that's true. If Avi's still here, he probably knows the answer to that, even though it's not a horror film. You know how Sarah, you've seen they do that. Oh shit, it's third act, and the whole meteorite's going to hit the planet in a minute and 30 seconds, and then you cut the protagonist and he's sweating. And then you cut back to it, and now it's 45 seconds. And then he almost gets through the door to undo the bomb, and now it's 30 seconds and keeps ticking down. So that's it. The ticking clock is wonderful. Luke Matheny uses it a little bit in God of Love. The potion is going to wear out, and when it wears out, she has to be in love with him. That's a ticking clock. Ticking clock is a great way to create obstacles. Absolutely. Bomb's going to blow up.
Cool.
Yeah. 30 seconds.
Let's see. I'm trying to find some questions. Maybe now we can move into some questions about some sorry. I get distracted by good questions. I was thinking about going in the direction of the business of screenwriting.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? How's my new mic?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Let's see. You want to tell us a story, John?
I could tell. I don't want to waste too much time telling one of my stories. Should I? No.
Tell us a story.
I'll tell you a quick story. Can I go back? I'll tell you a story about adaptation. This is a story you should not do. I probably shouldn't even tell a story. So adaptation. Based on this last question. So I read this book years ago. I found it in a used bookstore in LA, and it was called The Enchanted Isle. Weird that I remember that. It's called The Enchanted Isle, and I read it. It was by James M. Cain. And Alexie, cut me off if I go too long. So I'll try to be brief. So anyway, I read the book. As soon as I finished it, I thought, oh my God, there's a movie in here. And I made a bunch of phone calls, and I finally found the agent who represented the estate, because James Cain, famous writer, James Cain was dead by then. And so I found the agent. This is a true story. Found the agent who represented the estate. And I called them up, and Michael Siegel, who's really a wonderful guy and a great agent, he was there, and he said, what was the agent? The real agent's name, it'll come to me. But let's say his name was Peter. So he says, come up to the offices and we'll talk. Peter wants to hear your take on the book, and the book's been out of print. We can't even believe you found it. But, if you've got a good take on it, we'll, let you have the rights for a small fee. So I said, okay, fine. So I go up there and I'm pitching my idea. And I swear to God, this is true. While I'm pitching my idea, Peter, who's about 75 years old, big, heavyset guy. And while I'm pitching, he falls asleep. He falls asleep. And I look over at Michael Siegel, who's a young guy. He's like in his 20s. I look at Michael and I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? And the pitch is that bad. It's the only pitch I ever had. And he goes, no, he falls asleep. Come on. And he waves me out of the room. He goes outside. He says, I'm really sorry, but he falls asleep sometimes. So I said, okay, let me turn this on. And I'm like, what happens now? And he says, come back tomorrow and pitch it again, and hopefully he'll stay awake. So I do that. Anyway, long story short, that he says, well, I love your take on it. You're great. It's great. And it'll cost you $1,200 to get the rights to option it. But I was like, I was broke. It was my career hadn't really started yet. And so I said, oh, okay, $1,200, that's a good deal. And so I went home and I said to Michael, if anybody calls about this book, can you do me a favor? If anybody calls to option the rights, call, and he goes, lots of laugh. That guy said, sounds like LA. And so I went to work and I adapted the script and I did it and I wrote it. So, and it was a small indie film. It could be made for $2 million. And I knew this producer and I got it to him and I said, it's based on the Enchanted Isle and it's called Girl in the Cadillac Now. And he said, I love it. I want to buy it. And he says, you've optioned the rights, haven't you? Oh my God, this makes me out to be a liar now that I'm telling you a story. And I go, yeah, I've got the rights. And he goes, okay, well, I'll buy them. So I have to go back to Michael Siegel and I say, I'm going to option the rights now, but some guy's going to come in behind me and buy the rights. And that way. So anyway, I did you shouldn't do this. I don't suggest you do this. I did the adaptation without actually legally having the rights. And I got away with it. I shouldn't tell that story because you should never do that. But I was desperate and it worked. How's that there, Lexi? That's a story.
That was a great story.
It was an adequate story anyway. And Abishai's out there somewhere laughing, but yeah.
Have you ever collaborated on or co-written the script? Any advice for working with a partner?
Yeah. Find somebody who's smarter than you are. And that was easy for me.
Hard for Avishai, right?
I look for Abishai. Or Alexi, by the way. No, in all seriousness, I've worked with people and I've written some TV and I've worked, not a lot, but some TV and I've worked with writers. This is a hard thing to do, but if you can understand objectively what maybe, and I don't want to, I can't think of a better word, but what areas that you're somewhat inadequate about in terms of your writing abilities. And in other words, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Find somebody who helps, who's got strengths where you have weaknesses, and find somebody that knows story. Don't go into business with a writer who doesn't know story because it's like banging your head against the wall. David Weisberg and Doug Cook, two fantastic writers. They wrote The Rock. They wrote a bunch of stuff. They were really great writers. One was like 6'5" and the other was like 5'6". They were very funny. I used to see them walking down the street all the time together in my neighborhood in LA. And I said to Doug, how'd you and David get together? And he said, we met in college and David's the smartest guy I knew. So I said, you want to be my co-writer? And that's how they did it. But co-writing is great. The other thing about co-writing, which I've always envied, and I didn't, normally I wrote alone. It'd be great to have somebody in a room to bounce ideas off of. Just that would be a nice thing. Writing, it's a lonely sport.
My bad. Wait. That's not actually the question I wanted. That's people answering each other because they're very nice. Let's see. Here we go. Do you have to include cinema terminology like cut to, angle on? Yep.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want to say, we're tight on Rick, master shot on Ilsa. Directors hate that. They hate that because that's their job. As I think you said in that question, it is the director's job. Now, by the way, if it impacts the story, if it helps tell the story. So if you go, here's a Quentin Tarantino, and the camera pans down to below the table where the protagonist holds a gun. Now the gun is endemic to the story. The gun's an important story point. So that you would do because it tells the story, but you don't want to tell the director where to put the camera. They hate that.
So here's a question that's going back to when you were talking about co-writers and partners and stuff. Could you explain in a little more detail what you mean by they got to know story? And then something else, I just wanted to jump in to say something that I heard that really made a lot of sense to me in terms of writing partners. Mm-hmm. And it's that if you always agree on everything, then you might as well write alone.
You want somebody, let me go back to that. I'll come to this question. But you want somebody who tells you what's wrong with the story. Your wife will tell you it's great. Your mother will say, oh my God, you're a genius. Forget all that. You want somebody to go, you know what? I'm not sure you're a genius. And here's because you do that. You need somebody who sees something that you don't see. That's how the script gets better. This question is, could you explain a little more of the detail what you mean by got enough story? Got enough story. Yeah. I had a great compliment the other day. One of my students, she's quarantined. She's with her family in Pittsburgh, and she says so every night they watch a movie, and she says, and then after the movie, I'm sure they hate her by now. She said after they watch the movie, she breaks it down for them, and she said they've really gotten into it, and they're like, well, so why did he do that? Why did she do that? Why did this happen? And she breaks it down. If you know story, then there are no arbitrary choices. There are no, she did this, but it doesn't have anything to do with story. Everything impacts story. And the reason I'm teaching this class, I love story, and hopefully you do too. And then you become more and more sophisticated about it, and then you are more analytical about it, and you watch a film and you go, oh, I know why they did that. I know why the writer made that choice, and that impacts you as a storyteller. So when I say somebody you got to know story, know why these choices are being made, because in a tight script, everything drives story forward. There are no arbitrary moments. There are no moments that just happen loosey-goosey and they don't mean anything. The reason we started this class is if you like story, hopefully we're going to analyze it, and you'll get to the point where you really understand story, and it's a wonderful tool to have. It's a wonderful tool to have. In fact, let me just say one last thing. Even if you don't become a screenwriter, let's say you're a business person and you work at a company. At some point, you're going to have to tell a story. You're going to have to present. You're going to have to make a presentation. And we've all been at dinner parties, or we've all been out with people, and somebody starts to tell a story and you think, I'm going to kill myself if they don't stop this story. I mean, I'm losing my mind. What's the point? Who cares? And then you meet other people who really succinctly know how to tell the story. What's the difference? Some people it's innate, but if it's not innate, it can be learned. This is a craft that can be learned. And the better equipped you are to understanding story, it will help you, I believe, not only at dinner parties, but it'll also help you in any career you pursue, because you're going to have to explain yourself. You're going to have to talk, and the better you understand these reference points, I hope the better you will be at selling a product, or telling why this works, or saying why this startup makes sense. This startup is about such and such, and it's this round thing, and you've never seen it before, but we're calling it a wheel. And you explain how the wheel works, and maybe people will buy it. They might think it's a good idea. If you don't, then if you don't know how to tell that story, nobody's going to buy your wheel.
So I wanted to jump in for a sec and just say that, hi, there I am.
Oh,
wow. We're about wrapped up, but I'm very startled by being on screen. I don't know if I like it. But I wanted to say that, don't forget to subscribe or to sign up for an email list if you want to get notifications about coffee class. And what else was I supposed to say?
Are we going to talk about next week?
Yeah, that's what it was. So you do that. I'll leave you alone now.
No, don't. She left. So next week we're going to bring in a guest, so you don't have to listen to me. I can hear everybody applauding. I'm like, oh, thank God. So next week, we've got Aaron Sanger, who's a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker, and a great. She's marvelous. Aaron Sanger is just the best. And a really great storyteller. And she did a film. She made a film while she was at NYU called Bombshell. It was one of the finalists for the First Run Film Festival, which is a very competitive festival. And her film was Bombshell. And you guys are going to hopefully watch that, and we will have access to it. I think, Alexie, is that right?
Yeah. I was able to watch it just from her page. So
okay,
I'll send out an email.
Okay.
And we should get the script from her. Yeah.
And so we're going to watch Bombshell before next Friday. And then Erin's going to join us here, and she's going to answer questions about the film and other stuff she's done. She's made some great documentaries. She works all the time. She's very talented, and she's being very generous to come in next week and be a guest lecturer on coffee class. I should mention, by the way, the film, Lexi, is it a PG?
I would put it somewhere around PG-13.
Okay, it's got a little edge to it.
Yeah, it's a little mature, so it's probably not best for our youngest screenwriters.
All right.
But it's not like yeah. They'll be okay.
Close your eyes. And she's great, and she's going to tell us again how she made the film and what she's been doing since, and she'll answer your questions, and that'll be fun. What else, Alexie?
Just that we're
buy coffee. Buy me a coffee.
They asked
crass? Was that crass?
No. They were asking
what are they asking?
They were asking before how you take your coffee, and I think it's with milk and you use a French press. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're right.
Is that creepy?
French press? Yeah, it's a little creepy. Yeah. It's French press. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but anyway, French press and then a little milk.
Cool. Let's see. Let's see. I think that maybe we'll do like one more, but I think we're about wrapped up now. I'm trying to make sure there's nothing else we're supposed to tell people.
Covered everything.
If you didn't get your question answered, you can always email me, and I will add it to our question of the day queue. If you check out the rest of our YouTube page, we post a question once a day that John will answer, and we pull from stuff that you emailed to me or tweet at us or anything like that.
And there's a new one every day, right?
Yep, a new one every day. So send those, and we'll make little videos for you. Let's see. I think that's. And for everyone asking, there's no deadlines for your projects. It's all rolling. So just take your time with it. No rush. We know it's busy and everything. And if you're looking for the coffee to send John a coffee, it's also in the description below. Let's see. I wanted to do one more one more fun question.
Oh, intense or fun?
Both.
Or is that synonymous? I don't know.
Intensely fun.
Fun. Okay.
Man. Sorry, we're getting so many thank yous that I'm not seeing the.
Are we? That's nice.
Yeah, that I'm not seeing the questions anymore. Man. Okay. No. Everyone is saying good job on multitasking, and I'm reading those comments and I'm not multitasking.
Great.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
John, what went wrong with Cats?
Oh God. I didn't see it. Nobody saw it. I don't know. I didn't see it. I wish I got it. But who saw it? Did you see it? He can't answer me. I don't know what went wrong with Cats.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
Here we go. This is the last one because we get this quite a bit. How do you feel about voiceover?
Yeah, voiceover. Voiceover in the movie business is considered a cheat. For reasons I can't quite explain, I happen to like it, but don't go by me, because when the reader sees that you're doing voiceover most of the time is exposition. In other words, voiceover is telling you what's going on. The narrator's telling you, and the edict or the belief in is that show don't tell. If you have to stop the movie and have somebody say, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, then you don't know how to tell a story. So voiceover is generally, it's exposition. Directors don't like it because they feel like, tell me the story, don't have somebody, show me the story, don't have somebody tell me the story. It defeats the purpose of a visual medium. So voiceovers I'm sorry to say it, but they're frowned upon. And if you do it very minimally.
All righty. I think that we are wrapped up for this coffee class.
Thank you, everybody. This was fun. Hope you enjoyed it. And look forward to seeing you next week with Aaron, and watch Bombshell, and come and see us every day with our question of the day.
Yeah.
Right, Alexie?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alexie.
Yeah. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.